So I think I mentioned that this week would be a slightly interesting. It's a lengthways one. That this would be a slightly smaller month. With only one thing arriving today. And it's Earwig and the Witch, which is Studio Ghibli. Says that up there. Exclusive to Blu-ray plus DVD, contains interviews with the director. A film by Goro Miyazaki, which, if I remember correctly, is actually Hayao Miyazaki's son. And the only movie I definitely remember which had his name to it didn't do so well, but it wasn't necessarily bad as in like, oh, you should never watch anything from this director again. It was just bad as in like, I guess you could kind of feel like maybe there was supposed to be more to it than there actually was. So it'd be kind of interesting to watch this, just to kind of see if he's gotten better, which I would expect. But, you know, looking at the back, this is the G-Kids release stuff, you know. Is that right? Yeah, G-Kids. And then I was trying to think, because we only have this, we can look at bonus features, feature-length storyboards, creating it, interviews with Japanese voice casts, trailers and teasers. That looks like an A, so this would be region A only. Which kind of makes sense. And this is apparently talking about the Studio Ghibli collection on DVD, Blu-ray, and Steelbook. And these are the new Steelbook stuff they've been coming out with, and these are the older Blu-ray releases. Which, you know, these have been kind of tempting to want to pick up, especially Nausicaa, because, you know, that one still holds a special place in my heart. But for the time being, we have, that's a one, so this is the DVD version. It probably says DVD somewhere here, and I'm just, oh, it actually says it right there. And then over here we have the Blu-ray disc. And then on the inside, it's a, oh no, I was going to say it's just a comfy cottage, but actually there are people on this side. Although it's interesting because it's, I think it's still CGI, but it almost feels a little claymation-y. Well, another part of the reason to watch this is it's very possible that, you know, Studio Ghibli, like everybody else, may be diving more into CGI, 3D CGI movies, and like, I think with these two characters, I kind of sort of feel the Studio Ghibli character design vibe. But this might just be something new, and, you know, their movement in the industry is just kind of a noteworthy thing just because of their historical significance. Anyways, I know it's small, but here's this week's anime DVD collection update. So, pretty much only watched two things, although watched more of this than this, which is to say I watched all of this. So why don't we talk about the Goblin Slayer Goblin's Crown movie first. So, it's interesting because in some ways you could call it good, in other ways you could call it okay. I think the main problem with it is that it's a movie. Which isn't that it's necessarily bad, it's just that when you have something that's a movie, you kind of expect something that feels like you sit down, you watch the movie, and there's a sort of arc to the movie itself that almost makes it stand apart from the series. I guess it has its own climax, crescendo, build up. It can do something a little more grandiose or epic than what the series maybe did. And really that's just kind of an expectation you have when something's called movie. And this isn't like that. This is almost more like 3 additional episodes to the series. Maybe 2, I don't know. 2 or 3. And I was a little worried about it because it did seem like it was setting things up so that, oh yeah, here's this cool new character. Is she going to overshadow Goblin Slayer? Now, I'd say it actually went the opposite direction, where it did do the good thing of, Goblin Slayer is all about how goblins are actually really dangerous. People think of them as simple, easy, and that's because you can take them out one-on-one, or if you ambush them out in the open, then, you can take care of a big group of them. But when they're in their own territory, their own turf, they're pretty tricky and hard, and, they're always looking for ways to get better in their own kind of vile, disgusting way, I guess. And the entire point of this one is you had some adventurers that went out on a goblin slaying quest, and their main character from that group is this really neat looking lightning sword lady thing. And it's about Goblin Slayer being sent in to kind of help them out, which of course he would accept just because it involves killing goblins. That's Goblin Slayer. And there's this risk that the movie would have her being the focal point, but instead it kind of kept how Goblin Slayer is Goblin Slayer, and, he continues to be. Now, the trickiness is that, and this is why it's hard to tell, if you think of things as the movie, I would say that there were parts of the anime that were definitely more awe-inspiring, epic than this, whereas this would have been a really good episode as the beginning of the second season, where you're kind of setting up this different kind of threat, which is definitely very interesting, while building implications for things that are maybe going to happen. But there were things that went on in here that were a little not explained. Some of it because I think as a series it's kind of continuing, but as a movie it's just kind of weird because it's really just more like 3 more episodes. And in that regard, if you're watching it that way and you enjoyed the other stuff, you'll probably find it to be good. It's not like the best Goblin Slayer, but the Goblin Slayer series had some really great moments to it. Instead, you would probably find, yeah, it's good. But if you're expecting a movie with kind of the sort of movie payoffs that would imply, it'll only feel okay. It's a weird mental trick, but if you walk into it with the right attitude, I think it'll be fine. I guess I can't elaborate more because I think I already said more than I probably intended to say about it, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know. I want to get through this. So, I kind of expressed, I guess, what I would call a morbid curiosity of Kagaster of an insect cage. And it's harder for me to evaluate this one. There's definitely flaws about it. But it's... So, like, when I first fire up and I see a Netflix original series, I'll be honest, my heart sinks just a little bit because I think I've seen YouTube videos that kind of point this out, where Netflix kind of has this tendency to create things which have some sort of interesting basis, but then the way the stories are told is more in line to induce binge watching, or rather they more expect you to be binge watching. And I don't know, I think I pick up on little things like that, and they actually turn me off a little bit, and the Netflix name kind of associates with that. And I think this is a really good example because, like, the insects, the way they're designed, it's just freaky enough to kind of make you interested. And then the problem becomes that it doesn't seem to be about that as much as you would think it really should be. I mean, to be fair, I think I got through 2 episodes and I was in the middle of the 3rd episode when, I was in the middle of busy stuff, and so I eventually, when my Friday friend came over, it's like, yeah, I'm okay with turning this off and moving this. The main problem is that, this one, the interesting thing is the insects in this world that the humans live in with these insects. And a non-interesting part of that is when our main girl character, who's kind of haphazardly built up as this naive character. I say haphazardly because they have reduced some of that stuff along those lines, but I never really felt like it really did it so much as it kind of just thought that it's what it needed her to be doing, maybe. And the last thing I care about is her needing to play some game with some fucking purse thieves, because that has nothing to do with humans living in a world with these dangerous insects. In fact, some of the real problem I saw was that it kind of had some weird editing in there where you almost thought, like, wait, you had this one guy who looked like he was dealing with a problem. Is he about to turn into an insect? Then why did they let him through the town walls? And where he turned into an insect, oh wait, that was somebody else. It's just that they were setting up something else that happened after that. And it's like, it's not properly building up what the rules are. And to give it some credit, I haven't gotten the full 3 episodes in. But the problem is, again, for some reason, they're like, oh, well, the person that's taking care of the naive girl, well, for some reason, they think it's okay to send them out to go shopping, even though, I guess, pickpocket thieves are a thing. And she's friends with one of the people who knows the pickpocket thieves. And they're making total bullshit arguments. It makes me want to just crush their faces in so that they're not a problem to society anymore. But, that's not a really healthy way of thinking. It's very barbaric, but it is kind of like, my first gut reaction is, I don't like these people. Why is the show showing me these people? It's not very obvious to me that I should care about what they're going to be involved in, because I still don't know what any major goal is other than this idea that was set up that sounds like there's something interesting to it, but they haven't really shown us why it's interesting. It's sort of like, it doesn't seem to be built up as an anime around these people living with bugs. Now, I say this is only the first 2 episodes, and there could be a good reason why it's introducing all these characters from a storytelling perspective. But at the same time, again, like, she's supposed to be naive, and she's kind of crying, but then she's just kind of, I'm going to call it robotically. It wasn't completely robotically. A lot of that is just that the animation style is a little stiff. I don't even remember the CGI Netflix anime being as stiff as this one is. It's not bad. You watch them, you know what they're doing. But it just kind of feels weird when she should be sad, but then she's just kind of talking normally and kind of moving with their robot stiffness, saying, I have to learn to, or I have to just be strong because my memories of the things are what make things, or something along those lines. And also, and I can respect, like, the original creators probably had to create a sunset that looked great, and it did look neat, but I don't know if it looked neat enough for me to say that somebody who had never seen it before would go, oh my god, that is the most awesome sunset ever. And, that's just kind of a hard thing to convey, and you kind of have to accept it as that's what they're doing. But I just kind of feel like, for me, it felt like set pieces being moved around a lot of time. There were definitely moments where it didn't feel like that, but I think because it's this Netflix thing and it's going for this, it's not saying, okay, this is the hint we're going to give you at the end of the first episode that makes you want to watch episode 2. This is the hint at episode 2 that's going to make you curious about episode 3. It feels like it kind of flows, and we're watching the characters be, a little silly and whimsical, but it doesn't feel like it should be a silly whimsical, because they haven't established what it actually means to live in there. And I don't know, maybe this means some things were forgotten or missed, or maybe this was a problem with the original manga, assuming there was an original manga, and none of it necessarily means it's bad, but it definitely means that there are parts of it that were turning me off and making me need to build up energy to want to watch more, especially since, I've got all this video game stuff, especially since, like, Monster Hunter Rise. I'm continuing to enjoy it. I'm high ranked now, yeah. So I'm trying to remember when I last talked about it. So basically, my work co-workers, they're a little more about pressing on, whereas I'm not as much into that, because my brother, he only just got the game today, and he had apparently ordered it from GameStop, and GameStop gave him a shipping number, but they never actually shipped it, and they were giving him some wishy-washiness about when it would actually ship, which, sounds pretty scummy to me. Like, oh, we got to grab the money before we can actually send them product, because he ended up, once he realized they'd been stringing him along for like half a week, they'd give him a tracking number that couldn't track in any systems. Well, that's when he just went to Best Buy and they had a copy this time and he got it. Which surprised me because it sounded like he had tried to do that before. And it's weird. But I'm digressing majorly. The point is, he has it now, and I didn't want to get too far ahead of them because I want to play with him. He's fun to play with. You know, he's always been the ranged weapons, I've always been the close range weapons, and we've been doing this since Monster Hunter 3, and I don't know if he's still going to be doing that, but it's been a fun thing that we've done, and I just want to see what we play like in Monster Hunter Rise. So I don't want to go too far ahead, so mostly I've just been going ahead with the work crew because that's what they want to do, but I'm letting them drive what we actually choose to do, give or take the fact that I did push forward enough to get the HR4 Rampage Urgent. Yes, so all of that stuff in order to set up going to HR4, and then, you know, we just did stuff that got us to HR5. So for me, Monster Hunter Rise has been more about learning a little bit more about where I am at this point in the game and not trying to move forward much or too much. I say much or too much because there are a couple of quests I did that I hadn't done with the work crew that are multiplayer games, but they are mostly for the purposes of none of them get me closer to ranking up. They just kind of say, if I'm at this level, then I'm building up my armor. I need some aqua glow jewels, where there's some quests that are good for doing that. I need to catch some I need to kill some egg thieves so that the dongos get upgraded, which doesn't move me forward, but does, you know, increase the quality of life at the level where I am at. And that was basically what I was doing, was, you know, identifying, oh, here's how I make the new talisman that I need, and here's how I gem stuff, and just building up those basics while staying there. And, you know, I think last night I did completely reach where I wanted to be, and this last night is Sunday night. So I'm recording this Monday because I think tomorrow's busy, like really busy, so I'm not going to be able to stop and record this video for 30 minutes. I might be able to do the editing of it in the background, and hopefully, unlike last week, it'll actually move at a reasonable rate. I have to figure out what I accidentally had open last week that made the processing take literally 18 hours, I think. That number does not sound right, but it might not be completely off base, because like I started the processing at around 8 a.m. and it finished just after midnight, so actually that's more like 16 hours. Way too long. And this video will hopefully be shorter, unless I keep talking like this forever and ever. But yeah, that's the hope. And otherwise, I don't know if I've got a lot else to really talk about. You know, I'm really looking forward to playing with my brother. Hopefully he's at a place where we can play tomorrow, and then I'll Twitch stream that, of course. I should be a lot more interesting to watch because I won't be floundering around anywhere near as much as I was in the demo, because I've got the feel for the controls and what I'm doing a lot more. But on the other hand, I don't know. I'm also not quite sure what I would want to be watching next. I have stuff to figure out. But I don't know. I'm also hoping that this week will be a nice recovery week, where, because my Monster Hunter obligations have finally more petered and leveled out, that there isn't anywhere near as much video game obligation. Finally a week without stuff. Even though there are still obligations. But, oh well. Y'all, have a nice week.